My name is Isla Carter, and I'm 32 years old. I live in Chicago with my husband, Adam Carter, 35, a finance executive who works long hours but always makes time for Sunday morning pancakes. We've been married for 7 years, not a perfect marriage, but a solid one. At least, that's what I thought. I work as a graphic designer at a mid-sized advertising agency, where I spend my days creating visuals for brands I don't care about. It pays well, but I've always felt like I was meant for something more. Lately, though, I've been too exhausted to dream about what that more could be. Our life is routine but comfortable. We live in a modern condo in Lincoln Park, drink wine on Fridays, and have dinner dates once a month at our favorite Italian restaurant, Vittorio's. Adam is the logical, level-headed one, while I'm more emotional, always reading between the lines, always sensing things. My friends call me too intuitive for my own good. Adam calls me a chronic overthinker. I don't know which one is true. But I do know this. Everything in my life is about to change. It started on a rainy Tuesday. I was sitting in my car at a red light, watching raindrops race down the windshield, when a woman crossed the street. She wore a dark trench coat, her head down against the wind. Nothing unusual, until she lifted her face. And I saw myself. Not someone who looked like me. Me. Same sharp cheekbones, same dark eyes. I froze. The light turned green. The car behind me honked, but I didn't move. I couldn't. The woman, the other me, turned her head slightly, and for a split second, our eyes met. She smirked. And then she was gone, swallowed by the crowd. I gasped, my heart slamming against my ribs. Was I losing my mind? I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not even Adam. He already thought I was too anxious, always overthinking things. If I told him I saw my own face on someone else's body, he'd probably tell me to see a therapist. So I kept it to myself. But that was just the beginning. 2 days later, I was scrolling through my phone, deleting old pictures to free up space. That's when I found it. A photo I didn't remember taking. I was sitting in a cafe, except I wasn't. Same hair, same face, even the same necklace Adam bought me last Christmas. But I had never been to that cafe. I had never taken that picture. I checked the timestamp. It was taken yesterday at 2:37 p.m. At 2:37 p.m. yesterday, I was in a work meeting. I wasn't at some cafe. My hands started to shake. I zoomed in, searching for something, anything, that would prove this was just a weird glitch. And that's when I saw it. In the reflection of the cafe window, sitting across from me, was Adam. My stomach twisted. Why was Adam there? Who took this picture? Who the hell was in it? I swallowed hard and forced myself to stay calm. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was Photoshop. A prank. I needed answers. And I knew exactly where to start. I waited until Adam got home from work. He kissed my cheek, the way he always did, and I forced myself to smile. Hey, babe, he said, loosening his tie. How was your day? I clenched my phone in my hand. Casually, I asked, did you go out for lunch yesterday? Adam barely looked up. No, why? I swallowed the lump in my throat. No reason. Liar. I went to bed that night pretending everything was fine. But deep down, I knew, something was very, very wrong. And I was going to find out what. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, the woman with my face. The way she had smirked at me. The eerie familiarity in her eyes. The photo I never took, the cafe I had never been to, and worst of all, Adam sitting across from her. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let this go. Adam left for work at his usual time, kissing my forehead before walking out the door, completely unaware that I was watching him differently now. As soon as he was gone, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the cafe from the photo. The Rustwood Café. I had never noticed it before, tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop, its old-fashioned sign barely visible from the street. The moment I walked in, something strange happened. The barista, a young woman with bright red hair, smiled at me like she knew me. The usual, Isla, she asked. I froze. The air felt thick, suffocating. I forced a polite smile. Remind me what I usually get. She laughed. Oat milk latte, no sugar. I hate oat milk. I didn't correct her. I just nodded, paid for the drink, and found a seat near the window, the same seat from the photo. I sat there for nearly an hour, watching. Waiting. And then, I saw her. Walking past the cafe window, trench coat draped over her arm, my face reflecting in the glass. I shot up from my seat, heart racing. I ran outside, pushing through pedestrians, my eyes darting wildly through the crowd. But she was gone. That night, I decided to test Adam. I waited until we were curled up on the couch, watching TV, when I casually said, hey, have you ever been to the Rustwood Café? His reaction was subtle, but I saw it. A barely noticeable pause. A flicker of tension in his jaw. Then, too quickly, he said, never heard of it. Why, liar. I smiled. I went there today. It's cute. You should take me sometime. He nodded, but he didn't say anything else. He wasn't curious about why I suddenly went to a random cafe. He wasn't interested in trying it with me. I knew Adam well. He was hiding something. At 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing on the nightstand. A text. I knew I shouldn't, but my fingers moved before I could stop myself. I grabbed his phone and turned it on. I know his password, I always have. A single unread message glowed on the screen. Unknown, we need to talk. She's getting too close. My blood ran cold. I heard Adam stir beside me, and I quickly put the phone back. My pulse hammered in my ears. She's getting too close. Who was she? And why did I already know the answer? I couldn't confront Adam yet. Not until I had proof. So the next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed him. I waited until he left for work, then tailed him through the city, keeping a safe distance. Instead of heading to his office, he made a sharp turn onto a quiet street, and walked straight into a hotel. My stomach twisted. I parked down the street and ran inside, my heart slamming against my ribs. The hotel receptionist barely glanced at me as I walked past the lobby, my hands shaking. I scanned the lounge, the hallways, and then I saw him. Adam, sitting at a small table in the corner, speaking in hushed tones with a woman. Her, the woman with my face. I felt my breath hitch in my throat. They weren't touching, but they were close. Too close. Adam's expression was tense, his hands gripping the table. I took a step forward, then stopped. I needed to hear them. So I pulled out my phone, hit record, and slowly walked past, pretending to look at my screen. Their voices were low, urgent. She's getting suspicious, Adam said, running a hand through his hair. Me. The woman sighed. You knew this would happen eventually. You can't hide things forever. I just need more time, Adam said. More time for what? And then, in a voice that sent ice through my veins, she said, you should have told her the truth, Adam. She has a right to know who I am. I turned away, barely holding in my scream. I stumbled out of the hotel, my head spinning. My vision blurred with tears. I gasped for air, feeling like the world had just been ripped out from under me. Who the hell was she? And why did Adam, the man I had loved and trusted for 7 years, owe me an explanation? I didn't go home that night. I drove aimlessly through the city, my thoughts spiraling. Who was she? Why did she have my face? Why was Adam meeting her in secret? I pulled over at a gas station, hands shaking as I replayed the recording. Every single word, every hidden meaning. You should have told her the truth, Adam. She has a right to know who I am. The words rattled in my skull like a loaded gun. I had a right to know. So why had he kept it from me? I stared at my phone, debating for hours. Then, just before midnight, I made a choice. I texted Adam. I know you're lying. We need to talk. No reply. I waited. Nothing. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown. Stay out of this, Isla. You don't want the truth. It wasn't Adam. It was her. My breath hitched. I sat up straight, adrenaline surging through me. Who the hell are you? 3 dots appeared. Typing. Then, just one reply. Unknown. Ask Adam about Celeste. Celeste. The name meant nothing to me, and yet, it changed everything. I stormed into our apartment at 6 a.m. Adam was already awake, standing in the kitchen, pouring coffee like everything was normal. Like he wasn't a liar. I slammed my keys on the counter. Who the hell is Celeste? The cup froze midair. His hand shook. For a second, just one, I saw real fear in his eyes. Then he recovered, setting the mug down carefully. Where did you hear that name? I crossed my arms. So you're not going to deny it. Silence. Then, he sighed. I didn't want you to find out like this. Like this. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, you mean by finding out my own husband has been sneaking around with a woman who has my face? Adam flinched. He ran a hand down his face, looking guilty. Tired. You need to sit down, he said. Tell me, I snapped. Or I swear to God, I walk out that door, and I never look back. A long pause. Then, finally, she's my sister. The air went still. I blinked. What? Celeste is my twin. My stomach dropped. Twin. My mind struggled to process the word. My head shook automatically. You don't have a twin. Yes, I do. His voice was low, careful, as if he was walking on shattered glass. We were separated as kids. Adopted by different families. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Why did you lie? His jaw clenched. Because Celeste, she's not like me. A chill crept up my spine. What does that mean? Adam exhaled, looking at me with something that almost resembled pity. It means, he said quietly, that my sister is dangerous. I stared at him, my pulse pounding in my ears. Dangerous. I had married this man. Shared a life with him. And yet, he had hidden an entire sister from me. How long have you known? I whispered. Adam hesitated. 2 years. My breath caught. 2 years. For 2 years, he had been keeping her from me. Why? I demanded. Why the hell would you hide this? Adam looked away. Because Celeste, she's obsessed with you. I laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. Me. I don't even know her. He rubbed his temples. That's the problem. She's known about you since the day we got married. I swallowed hard. Explain. Now. Adam hesitated. Then, she found me 2 years ago. I didn't even recognize her at first. We'd been separated since we were 4. But she knew everything about me. About you. She'd been watching, Isla. For years. I felt a sickening drop in my stomach. Watching. I whispered. Adam nodded, his expression haunted. She sent me pictures. Of you at work. At the grocery store. Walking to your car. Always from a distance. I shivered. I had never noticed. Never felt eyes on me. But she had been there. Following me. Studying me. Adam continued. I confronted her. Told her to stay away. She agreed. But then, a few months ago, she reached out again. Said she wanted to fix things. I swallowed hard. So you started meeting her behind my back. Adam exhaled. Yes. I didn't know how to tell you. Something about his tone didn't sit right. Because deep down, I knew Adam. And Adam was still lying. I didn't believe him. Not fully. So I did something desperate. That night, while Adam slept, I took his phone. I knew his passcode, he never bothered changing it. And what I found shattered me. Hundreds of messages. Not just from Celeste. From Adam, too. She wasn't just obsessed with me. He was obsessed with her, too. There were messages about me. About replacing me. My hands shook as I scrolled. Adam, she's starting to suspect something. Celeste, good. That means she's almost ready. Adam, she's not ready. She still thinks I love her. Celeste, that's because you do. I dropped the phone. My breath came in gasps, my vision tunneling. This wasn't just a secret. This was a plan. A plan I was never supposed to uncover. And when I turned around, Adam was awake, watching me. He smiled. And I realized, too late. I had never been the wife. I had always been the replacement. I couldn't move. Adam's eyes were locked onto mine, his expression unreadable. But his smile, that smile was what terrified me. Couldn't sleep. He asked, voice calm. My mind raced. If I panicked, he would know. If I ran, he would catch me. I forced a smile, just checking the time. His gaze flickered to the phone on the floor. Then back to me. He knew. He knew I had seen everything. My pulse thundered as I slid my foot back, inching toward the door. You were never supposed to find out like this, he said softly. My throat tightened. Find out what, Adam? He exhaled. That I loved her first. I nearly collapsed. I had spent years believing we were soulmates. That he had chosen me. That what we had was real. But it had never been real. Then why marry me? I whispered. Adam's head tilted, almost pitying. Because she wasn't ready. And I couldn't wait forever. I couldn't breathe. I had been a stand-in. A temporary solution. A placeholder for someone who was always meant to take my place. And now, Celeste was ready. I took another step back. Adam, a movement behind me. Fast. Sudden. A hand clamped over my mouth. Celeste. Her lips brushed my ear as she whispered, don't worry, Isla. I'll take good care of him. And then, everything went black. Waking up somewhere I shouldn't be. Pain. That was the first thing I felt. A dull, aching pain in the back of my head. I groaned, trying to move. I couldn't. My wrists, tied. My ankles, bound. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dim lighting. The air smelled damp, like an old basement. A single flickering bulb buzzed overhead. Panic set in. Where was I? Where was Adam? Footsteps. Then, Celeste. She crouched in front of me, head tilted in a way that made my skin crawl. You always had such a perfect life, she murmured. Perfect house. Perfect career. Perfect husband. Her eyes darkened. It was never supposed to be yours. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay calm. Celeste, I don't understand. Why? She laughed. Sharp. Cold. Of course, you don't. She rose to her feet, pacing. Adam always tried to protect you. Said you wouldn't handle the truth. She glanced at me, smirking. I think he was right. I clenched my fists. Then tell me the truth. Celeste stopped pacing. She studied me, as if deciding something. Then, finally, it wasn't just Adam who chose you. Her lips curled. It was me. A sickening realization hit me. Celeste had let me have Adam. She had let me live in her life. And now, she was ready to take it back. I struggled against the ropes. You won't get away with this. Celeste sighed. You really don't get it, do you? She leaned in, her voice a whisper. I already have. The door creaked open. Adam stepped inside. I froze. His gaze met mine, unreadable. Then, he smiled. Not at me. At her. Celeste turned to him, and my stomach churned as he reached for her, brushing a hand down her arm. The way he used to touch me. I felt sick. Adam, my voice cracked. Please. He tilted his head, considering. Then, in the same soothing tone he used to whisper sweet promises, he said. You need to let go, Isla. Tears blurred my vision. I love you. Celeste scoffed. No, you don't. I turned to her, desperate. Please. She leaned in, and whispered the last words I ever expected. You don't exist anymore. My blood ran cold. What did that mean? But before I could ask, Adam stepped forward, pressed a needle to my skin, and the world slipped away. I woke up screaming, but no sound came out. My throat was raw, my body, weak, sluggish, drugged. I blinked hard, my vision clearing. I wasn't in the basement anymore. White walls, a soft beeping sound, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled my lungs. A hospital. A nurse rushed to my side. It's okay, Isla. You're safe now. Safe. Nothing about this felt safe. My wrists, bruised from the restraints. My mind, scattered, foggy. I tried to sit up, but a sharp pain shot through my skull. Then, a voice. Adam, I told you not to push her. My body went still. He was here. His voice was calm, but there was something underneath it. A warning. I turned my head, slow, terrified. And there he was, standing beside Celeste. She was in a pale blue dress, her hair neatly tied back. Like a loving wife, she clutched his arm, her eyes full of fake concern. I felt sick. Adam sighed. You really scared us, Isla. My fingers curled into the bedsheets. What? My voice came out weak, hoarse. Celeste stepped forward. You tried to hurt yourself. My heart stopped. What? No, no. I shook my head, but the movement made me dizzy. Adam placed a gentle hand on my arm. It's okay, sweetheart. We understand. You've been under so much stress. Sweetheart. The word made my stomach churn. He was playing a role. They both were. I swallowed hard, forcing out words. I didn't. Celeste's voice softened. The doctor said you were experiencing a psychotic break. It happens, Isla. Trauma does that. My pulse thundered. They were rewriting my story. They were making me look unstable. I tried to push myself up, but my body was too weak. No, my words slurred. Adam sighed. Shish, baby. You need to rest. Celeste gave a perfectly rehearsed sniffle. We just want you to get better. The nurse looked at me with sympathy and doubt. She believed them. They had planned this. Celeste smoothed the blanket over me, voice soft. Don't worry, Isla. Then she whispered so only I could hear. You don't belong in this life anymore. But don't worry, I'll take good care of it. The days blurred together. I was trapped. Not in a basement, not in a cage, but in a life that no longer belonged to me. The hospital kept me under suicide watch. I wasn't allowed to leave. Adam and Celeste visited daily, playing the roles of my loving husband and my worried best friend. They had everyone fooled. I watched from my hospital bed as Celeste slowly became me. She wore my clothes. She took over my social media. She moved into my house. I heard the nurses whispering. Adam is such a devoted husband. Celeste is so sweet, taking care of everything while Isla recovers. Poor woman. She really lost herself. I wanted to scream. But who would believe the crazy wife? I had one chance. One moment to take my life back. For weeks, I played the part. Let the drugs fog my mind. Smiled at Adam like I believed him. Nodded when Celeste spoke, as if I trusted her. I made them think they had won. Then, one night, everything changed. A new nurse walked in. She wasn't like the others. She didn't give me that pitying look. She didn't treat me like a fragile, broken thing. She just watched me. And in that moment, I knew. She knew. I waited until she was close. My voice was barely a whisper. Help me. She didn't flinch. Didn't react. Just adjusted my IV like I hadn't spoken at all. My heart sank. Had I imagined it? But that night, my door was left unlocked. I didn't hesitate. I ran. Barefoot. Weak. Desperate. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Every step burned. Every breath was a battle. But I kept going. Because I knew exactly where I needed to be. The only place I could be safe. Lillian opened the door. Her eyes widened, her breath hitching. She looked me up and down, disbelief flashing across her face. She hadn't expected to see me alive. I swayed on my feet, gripping the doorframe for support. My voice was barely above a whisper. Please, don't ask questions. Just let me in. For a second, she hesitated. I couldn't blame her. I looked like hell, probably worse. Then, without a word, she stepped aside. The moment I crossed the threshold, my knees buckled. I barely made it to her couch before collapsing onto it, every muscle in my body screaming in exhaustion. My hands trembled against the fabric, my breaths coming in short, uneven gasps. Lillian shut the door, locked it, then turned to face me. arms crossed, eyes sharp. You look like hell, she finally said. A shaky, broken laugh slipped from my lips. You have no idea, she sighed, walking to the kitchen. I heard the sound of cabinets opening, then water running. A minute later, she was back, pressing a cold glass into my hands. Drink. I took a sip, the cool water soothing my parched throat. Lillian sat across from me, her gaze searching mine. Okay, start talking. I closed my eyes for a moment, gathering the words, the strength. Then, I told her everything. I told her how Adam and Celeste had tried to erase me. How they had spun their lies so tightly around me that the world believed them. How they had convinced everyone I was insane, dangerous. How I had spent weeks in that hospital, drugged and trapped, watching Celeste slide into my life like she had always belonged there. How Adam had smiled at her the way he used to smile at me. How no one had questioned it. By the time I finished, my throat was raw, my hands gripping the empty glass so tightly my knuckles turned white. Lillian hadn't spoken a word the whole time. But I saw it, how her expression shifted. The disbelief, the horror, and finally, the rage. She stood abruptly, pacing the room. They really thought they could do this. Her voice was low, dangerous. I nodded, and they almost did. She exhaled sharply, running a hand through her hair. Then, suddenly, she stilled. A slow, dangerous smirk crept onto her face. Well, she said, tilting her head. Let's make them regret it. A shiver ran down my spine. She wasn't just angry. She was ready for war. Adam and Celeste thought I was gone. But I was back. And this time, I wasn't alone. Well, she said, tilting her head. Let's make them regret it. A shiver ran down my spine. She wasn't just angry. She was ready for war. Adam and Celeste thought I was gone. But I was back. And this time, I wasn't alone. Lillian and I had spent weeks gathering evidence against Adam and Celeste, piecing together the deception they had built to destroy me. But the truth I uncovered was far deeper than I ever imagined. I stared at the document in front of me, my hands trembling. It wasn't just a birth certificate. It was my birth certificate. And next to my name, printed in black ink, was another name I had never seen before, Celeste Monroe. Born the same day, to the same parents, my twin sister. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Lillian sat across from me, watching me closely. I knew something was off when I saw Celeste, she murmured. You two don't just look alike. You're identical. She tapped the paper. Now we know why. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it. But I don't have a twin, I whispered. I was an only child. My parents. My voice caught. My parents had lied. Lillian leaned forward. You were never supposed to meet her, Isla. That's why they separated you. I clenched my fists. I was never meant to know I existed in two places at once. But Celeste had always known. I don't remember dialing my parents' number. I don't remember my hands shaking as I held the phone to my ear. I just remember the ringing. And the way my heartbeat pounded like a war drum in my chest. My mother picked up on the third ring. Sweetheart. Her voice was warm, like it always was. Familiar. Comforting. Fake. I swallowed, my throat dry. Why didn't you ever tell me? Silence. Then, a sharp inhale. Tell you what, darling? She asked, playing dumb. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. Don't lie to me, I whispered. I know. Another pause. Then, she exhaled slowly, like she had been waiting for this moment. Who told you? A cold chill ran down my spine. That was it. No denial. No confusion. Just acceptance. I sucked in a shaky breath. I found the records, I said. I have a twin, don't I? Another sigh. Soft. Regretful. False. Yes. The word shattered me. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt the warm tears run down my cheeks. You lied to me. My voice cracked. My whole life. You let me believe I was alone. You weren't alone, Isla, she said softly. We loved you. No, I snapped. You hid me. Why? Why didn't you ever tell me she existed? My father spoke up then, his voice rough and tired. Because we were never supposed to have you. Everything inside me went still. What? My mother cleared her throat. Your biological parents, they only wanted one child, Isla. They didn't want twins. I felt like I was going to be sick. They kept Celeste, she continued. And they arranged for you to be given away. I pressed a hand to my mouth. I had thought I was abandoned. Left at an orphanage. Given up. But this was worse. I wasn't unwanted. I was discarded. A mistake they had to cover up. A second child they hadn't planned for. My voice was barely a whisper. They paid you, didn't they? Silence. My father sighed. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I choked out. Did they give you hush money? Did they buy Celeste's perfect life by throwing me away? No one threw you away, my mother said, her voice firm now. We fought for you, Isla. We wanted you. We took you in when no one else would. I let out a bitter laugh. You took me in because they didn't want me. That's not true. Then why did you hide her from me? My voice rose. If you really wanted me, if you really loved me, why did you make sure I never knew she existed? More silence. Then, finally, my mother spoke. Because we were afraid. I frowned. Afraid of what? That one day, they'd come back for you. The word sent ice down my spine. What do you mean? I whispered. My father hesitated. They didn't just pay us to take you, Isla. They made us promise, swear, that you would never find out. That you would never try to contact them. I could barely breathe. You were never meant to know, my mother added softly. Never meant to exist in their world. I felt like my entire life had just been erased. They hadn't given me up because they couldn't afford me. They hadn't given me up because they were struggling. They had given me up because I was inconvenient. Unwanted. A problem they solved with money. And the people I had called my parents. They had agreed. For a price. Isla, my mother said gently. Please, you have to understand. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. My chest was tight. Lillian stood in the doorway, arms crossed. She had heard everything. Are you okay? She asked. I let out a breathless laugh. No, because the truth was worse than I ever could have imagined. Lillian didn't ask me any more questions. She just walked over, grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the counter, and poured 2 glasses. She slid one toward me. I stared at it. Then, I picked it up and downed it in one go. It burned all the way down, but I welcomed the pain. Lillian smirked. That bad, huh? I let out a shaky breath. They sold me, I muttered. Like I was nothing. She didn't argue. Didn't try to comfort me. Instead, she refilled my glass. I swallowed thickly. My real parents. They only wanted Celeste. Lillian sighed, propping her elbows on the table. Sounds like it. A wave of nausea hit me. I silly me had thought my biological parents were out there somewhere. That maybe they had loved me but just couldn't keep me. That maybe they had missed me, wondered about me, regretted their decision. But the truth was that they had erased me before I even had a chance to exist. And the worst part, Celeste had known. She had always known. I put my head in my hands. I was nothing to them. Lillian snorted. Well, that's not true. You were important enough for them to pay a shit ton of money to keep you a secret. I shot her a glare, but she just raised a brow. What? I'm just saying. You weren't nothing. You were a problem. A loose end. And now you're an even bigger one. I scoffed. Gee, thanks. Lillian leaned back, tapping her nails on the table. You know, I've been thinking about something. I took another sip. That's dangerous. She smirked. Yeah, well, so is this whole situation. I glanced at her. What is it? She folded her arms. If your biological parents never wanted you, if they paid to keep you hidden, then why did Adam need you? I stilled. She was right. If Celeste had been the chosen one, if she had always been their perfect daughter, then why the hell had Adam needed me? My fingers tightened around the glass. I remembered what my adoptive parents had said. We were afraid they'd come back for you. I swallowed hard. Adam didn't just find me, I whispered. Celeste must have told him about me. Lillian's eyes gleamed. Exactly. A heavy silence settled between us. And then, slowly, the pieces started to fall into place. Celeste had been engaged to Adam. But something had changed. Something had made her unavailable. And instead of losing his chance at marrying into a powerful family, Adam had found me. A perfect stand-in. A convenient replacement. And when Celeste changed her mind, they had to get rid of me. I set the glass down, my hands trembling. The next morning, I found a new folder sitting on Lillian's desk. She had been digging again. What is this? I asked, flipping through the papers. Lillian leaned back, crossing her arms. It's a timeline. Every step they took to make you disappear. I skimmed the first page. A false police report. Then another. Then hospital records. Then medical prescriptions with my name. All of them painting me as unstable. All of them filed by Adam and Celeste. Lillian's voice was cold. They planned this for months, Isla. She turned to the final page. A death certificate. My name was on it. Dated 3 months ago. The same day they had me committed. Celeste wasn't just stealing my life. She had already taken it. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking across the room. All I remember is my own voice, shaking with rage. I was never meant to survive. Lillian nodded. But you did. And now, they would pay. I took a deep breath. It's time. Lillian smirked. I was hoping you'd say that. It was time to make them pay. Lillian leaned back against the couch, twirling a pen between her fingers. All right, let's go over this again. I sighed, rubbing my temples. We've been over this 1,000 times. And we're going over it 1,000 more until we get it perfect, she shot back, smirking. Now, the plan. I took a deep breath. We expose them at the engagement party. Lillian grinned. Damn right, we do. I grabbed a notebook from the coffee table and flipped through the pages. We have everything: hospital records, police reports, prescription records. Lillian interrupted, holding up a flash drive. And, of course, the grand finale, the security footage. I stared at the tiny piece of plastic like it was a bomb. In a way, it was. They have no idea what's coming, I murmured. Lillian leaned forward, eyes gleaming. We're going to set their whole damn world on fire. The night of the perfect engagement party, I stood outside the lavish mansion, my heart pounding. You ready? Lillian whispered beside me. I exhaled shakily. Not even a little. She smirked. Good. That means you're about to do something insane. We stepped inside. The room was filled with laughter and the clinking of champagne glasses. Guests in designer suits and gowns whispered excitedly about Adam and Celeste's bright future. I felt sick. Then I saw them. Adam, charming as ever, smiling at the crowd. Celeste, draped in diamonds, laughing like she hadn't stolen my life. Lillian nudged me. Showtime. I walked forward, heart hammering, and picked up the microphone. The entire room turned to me. I smiled. Surprise. Gasps. Stunned whispers. Celeste froze. Adam's face went white. Before they could react, the TV screen behind them flickered to life. And then, their lies unraveled. Celeste, smirking. She'll believe anything if we say it enough times. Adam, laughing. By next month, no one will even remember she existed. Celeste again, wrapping her arms around him. Baby, I can't wait to finally be your wife. The room exploded. Celeste's mother screamed. Her father's face turned ashen. Adam's boss, the same man who had shaken his hand just moments ago, took a step back. Celeste lunged for the remote. This is happening. This isn't real. Lillian laughed. Oh, it's real, sweetheart. Very real. Celeste spun to her parents, panicked. You knew about her. You knew and you let me. Her father slapped her. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. You lied to us, he hissed. You told us she was nothing. I tilted my head. She told you I was nothing. Celeste's mother opened her mouth, but no words came out. I smiled. Interesting. Then I turned to Adam. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, because he already knew, this was the end. I stepped closer. Cat got your tongue. His jaw clenched. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said sweetly. You and Celeste wanted a fresh start, so you tried to race me. He swallowed hard. I leaned in, whispering just for him. By the way, the baby was never yours. A little I had kept. At first it shattered nay to find out and now I return the favor. His face shattered. And finally, I walked away. The next day, Lillian kicked her feet up on the coffee table, scrolling through her phone. Well, it's official. I sipped my tea. What is? She turned the screen to me. News headlines flooded the internet. Adam Carter arrested for fraud and attempted murder. Socialite Celeste Monroe exposed in elaborate identity scandal. The secret twin switch, a real-life nightmare. I let out a slow breath. Damn, Lillian grinned. You did it. I blinked at her. We did it. She tossed her phone aside and stretched. So, what's next for Isla? I hesitated. For so long, I had been fighting. Plotting. Surviving. Now I was free. I didn't know what came next. And for the first time, that didn't terrify me. 1 month later, I sat in a small cafe, staring out the window at a world that had finally stopped trying to destroy me. Lillian slid into the seat across from me, stealing a fry from my plate. You look better. I smirked. You say that every time. She shrugged. It's always true. A pause. Then she leaned forward. So, what now? I stared at my coffee. For the first time in years, I had no answer. No battle to fight. No revenge to plot. No enemy to destroy. Just silence. Lillian tapped the table. You could start over. I glanced at her. How? She grinned. However the hell you want. A slow smile spread across my lips. For the first time in forever, I wasn't afraid. For the first time, I was free. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an amazing story.